Mr. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Conwell.
Aye.
We have certification of closed meeting resolution 22-04.
I move we approve resolution 22-04 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve resolution -22-04. All in favor with a roll call vote?
Ms. Astrop.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Conwell.
Aye.
Mr. Slayton.
Yes, sir. Before the board goes to the approval of the agenda, the board asked me to make an announcement, so here goes. The previously published agenda for this evening's meeting included board approval of a proposed job description for the Human Resources Director's assistant position. This matter will be removed from this evening's agenda. This matter could be discussed by the board at a future meeting. Before considering whether to add a new position, the board wants a new county administrator to have time to evaluate the need for the position and to make a recommendation to the board. If this matter is to be considered by the board at a future meeting, it will be included in the board's agenda for that meeting and therefore provided notice to the public. So it will be off the agenda. Having made that announcement, Mr. Chairman, I'd recommend that the board adopt the agenda with two changes. One is a deletion of item 13A, and the other is with the deletion of item 2A2.
Can I get a motion that we approve the agenda with the amendments?
I move we approve the agenda as amended.
And second.
Been moved and second that we approve the agenda with amendments. All in favor with a roll call vote?
Ms. Astrop.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Conwell.
Aye.
Next, we have approval of consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes from the July 19, 2021 meeting, budgetary matters attachment E, warrants attachment F, and resolution 22-10, personnel matters resulting from closed session.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the consent agenda as amended. All in favor with a roll call vote?
Ms. Astrop.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Conwell.
Aye.
Next, we have the public hearing, which is attachment G in your agenda packet. You see you have the zoning matters, number 1, ZTA 1-21 solar facilities, and item B, Greensville County Comprehensive Plan as relates to solar facilities. We'll need a motion to go into the public hearing.
I move we go into a public hearing for solar.
Second.
Been moved and second that we go into solar hearing. All in favor with a roll call vote?
Ms. Astrop.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Conwell.
Aye.
Before we go into the public hearing, Mr. Slayton has some items he needs to share.
As always, as a board's practice, I will review the protocol the board has for public hearings and for citizens' comments. The Greensville County Board of Supervisors has developed a protocol to ensure that board meetings and public hearings are productive and efficient and that proper decorum is maintained. The Board of Supervisors wants to emphasize that this protocol is intended to make board meetings and/or public hearings as productive as follows. The protocol is as follows. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the Board of Supervisors. The time limit will be strictly enforced. Each speaker will be advised when 2 minutes have elapsed. Each speaker will be advised when 3 minutes have elapsed, at which time the speaker should cease speaking. And each speaker will be permitted to address the board only once, which means that no person's 3-minute speaking opportunity can be transferred to another speaker. Speakers should face the Board of Supervisors and address their comments to the Board of Supervisors and not to others who are present at the meeting. Speakers should not turn to face and address members of the audience. The Board of Supervisors is conducting a citizens' comments period and/or public hearing to receive comments from interested parties. Neither the Board of Supervisors nor its staff will respond to questions from citizens or interact with citizens during the public speaker section. The Board of Supervisors asks that everyone at the meeting be respectful of others who are present and asks that everyone refrain from applauding speakers even if you like what they have said. No public outbursts, please. As a reminder, it is inappropriate to applaud comments which have been made. Prior to beginning your comments, please state your name and address for the record. There's a sign-up sheet for citizens' comments. If you're not on it, you can't speak. So if you want to speak and you haven't signed up, let us know now, and we'll sign you up. Once the sign-up sheet is brought to the front, that determines the number of speakers. The board's final request is this: if any speaker simply wants to endorse comments which have been made by a prior speaker, you're encouraged to simply tell the board that I endorse and support the comments made by that speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slayton. Mr. Pope?
Thank you. The comments for both the proposed comp plan amendments and the proposed zoning text amendments to Article 24 is going to be the same report for both cases. So just want to let you know that ahead of time. Back at the end of 2020, the board was concerned about the rapid pace at which solar development was occurring throughout the county. 5 solar projects were already approved, and the county staff had been contacted by numerous other solar developers. The board was concerned about the density of projects in several areas, the long-term impacts of solar, as well as the fact that developers were inquiring about land that was better suited for residential and commercial development. Many of these prospective projects were located within the urban service area as identified in the county's comprehensive plan. It was the consensus of the board that the county needed to slow down development of solar projects at least until some of the approved projects had been completed and we could see how they turned out. As a result, staff did a solar report on solar in Greensville County and presented that to the board. I believe it was in April, early April. And then the board directed staff to adopt some proposed changes to both the comp plan and the zoning ordinance. So I'll start with the proposed comp plan amendments. In 2019, the county board had put some metrics in place in the comp plan to address solar and to help make decisions where it was appropriate for these solar projects to be sited. These metrics included that the total size shall be no less than 2 acres and no larger than 1,000 acres with no more than 75% PV coverage. It had to be located outside of growth areas. It had to be located further than 1 mile from any village, town, or city boundary. It had to be located 1.5 miles from other existing or permitted solar facilities. Had to be located within 1 mile of an electric transmission line, and distance from residences, historic, cultural, recreational, or environmentally sensitive areas should be taken into account, as well as scenic view sheds. So staff, we basically have 2 options. You can remove these metrics that were put in place in the comp plan that are merely suggestions to aid in, as I said, citing the location of these projects, and put them in the zoning ordinance where they become law. So the other option was to make no changes to the comp plan at all. So staff's recommendation that the board wanted to make changes was to move those metrics I just listed to the zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission, at their last meeting, they voted to leave the comp plan the same. So when we look at the zoning ordinance side, the recommendation was to take those same metrics I just talked about, put them in the zoning ordinance where they become law. There were a few other items in the zoning ordinance, a few changes or tweaks to those metrics that were in place. One of them was utility scale solar projects 5 megawatts or less are not allowed in any zoning district throughout the county. Again, we included the maximum 1,000 acres with 75% PV coverage. Utility scale projects must locate within 1 mile, as I previously stated. And utility scale projects must locate a minimum of 5 miles from another approved utility scale project. And the 5 miles, that's right much. It could be reduced. We previously had 1.5 miles. It could be leave it at 1.5 miles or 2 miles, whatever the board wishes. Then we also cleared up some of the language when people make an application talking about the total project size, so it's consistent when we get an application as to how big the project will be. It states the narrative must identify the total parcel acreage, the total project acreage, which includes the buffered area and wetlands, and the total that will have PV coverage. Those were the recommended changes if the board wished to make changes to the zoning ordinance. Again, the Planning Commission met at their last meeting, and their recommendation is to leave the zoning ordinance as it is and make no further changes to the zoning ordinance. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Pope. On the sign-up sheet, it appears we may have a mixture of some citizens' comments as well as some folks who are here to sign up to speak in regards to solar during the public hearing. So when we call your name, if you're here for solar, please go ahead and come up. If you're here to speak during citizens' comments, we ask that you speak during the citizens' comment time.
Can you not do both?
Right, first we have Mr. Ernest Green.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Ernest Green. I'm with Dominion Energy, and my home address is 4809 Stony Creek Parkway, Chester, Virginia. And the first thing I wanted to, thank you so much. Great. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Great. First thing I wanted to do is say that it's so good to see Lynn Pope in the meeting tonight. And we talked on the phone, but hadn't seen him, so glad you're healthy and back with us, Lynn. What I wanted to say tonight is, regarding solar, is that we've been Dominion Energy, dealing with solar for quite a while now, and what we've done over the years is talk to organizations and to say, counties, what's going to hinder you from solar development in your county? And so when we looked at the solar ordinance and different amendments that were being made to the ordinance, we were saying this is going to hinder solar development. And if that's what the county is trying to do, you're going to be successful. Because, and just to give you a glimpse into what Dominion is involved in right now, is that our coal-fired plants are being shut down because of age and because of the environment. And everybody is concerned about greenhouse gases and the environment and temperatures going up and glaciers melting and things like that. So we have to decide how we're going to still get energy to our customers. And we attempted the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. That was shut down. And so now we're looking at renewable sources, and we have wind and we have solar. We have an offshore wind project going on right off of the Virginia Beach coastline right now. And solar seems like the best thing that's going on to generate electricity for our customers, because everybody likes to have electricity. Am I right? Okay. And so what we're trying to do is to say, what's the best way to do that?
1 minute.
And so what we're doing now, so we just looked at a lot of the conditions in the ordinance, and we said that those are going to hinder solar development in your county, and we're asking you to not approve the ordinance changes, amendments that have been submitted, because they will in fact hinder solar development. And we're here to get electricity to our customers, and the best way to do, and protect the environment. And we look at environmental justice, we look at all of those different things as we're meeting with citizens, landowners, and just trying to see what's the best way to do solar development in Greensville County. So we're here asking you to not accept those amendments and to move forward with the solar ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Wilson.
Have to make an adjustment here. Good evening. My name is Laura Wilson. I'm also with Dominion Energy. I'm in the business development group, and I'll just piggyback on some of the things that Ernest has said. The proposed solar amendments that you have before you tonight to add to your zoning ordinance could severely limit, if not eliminate, solar development and its potential economic benefits for Greensville County. Why does that matter? Dominion Energy is now mandated to build over 16,000 megawatts of solar in the Commonwealth. We will build those solar projects somewhere, and that is millions, if not billions, of dollars of capital investment. If solar is not welcome in a county, we'll just build it somewhere else. And you might say, well, we don't care, but here's what the benefits of solar are to a locality. It's a typical 11-fold increase in property taxes as the land on which the solar project is built is rezoned. The revenue share which you have adopted will give you $1,400 per year per megawatt, escalating by 10% every 5 years. This is zero risk, guaranteed, predictable income. And siting agreements are now possible, and this can provide funding for critical community needs. Pretty much anything you can think of in your capital improvement plans that you need, that your communities need, it can be worked out in a siting agreement. Ernest sent to you all today a Magnum economic analysis, and what his study showed in 2020 was that for a southeastern Virginia community such as Greensville County, the cumulative physical impact over 35 years from a typical 100 megawatt solar facility would be over $8 million just from the revenue share agreement. This does not include the 11-fold increase in property taxes or the siting agreement, which is signed up front.
1 minute.
It also showed, his study also shows that other realistic choices for development, such as residential or industrial, actually give a negative net physical impact to counties. The last point I'd like to make is that in contrast to the residential or industrial development alternatives, land used for utility scale solar development can readily be reclaimed and returned to its agricultural use. So again, as Ernest said, we're urging you to vote against these amendments. The time-tested CUP permitting process allows citizens already to provide their input. Every solar project must be approved by the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, which gives you the ability to assess each project on its unique merits to determine the appropriate requirements and to maximize the local benefits. These amendments are somewhat arbitrary. I think Lynn alluded to that, 5 miles, 1 mile, 3 miles.
Time.
Why not just vote on each project individually? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Ray?
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Mike Ray, 583 Scotland Drive, Jarrett, Virginia. Please make sure you keep me down for public comments as well. On the solar issue, I have listened to these and heard these arguments back and forth, and my opinion on it, and it's just an opinion, is that if you're not breaking the law or you're not doing something that absolutely harms or disrupts your neighbor of the county, then Greensville County has no business telling a landowner what they can or cannot do with a piece of property that they own. I own a small piece of property, and it's not tied up in solar. If I'm lucky, maybe one day it will. And it's been in my family for over 200 years now. But I can promise you, the money that solar brings, I will never get planting pine trees. I will never get that money planting peanuts, cotton, tobacco, sweet potatoes, and everything else that's been planted. And again, I'm not in the solar, but I'm sure hoping that I am one day soon to see that revenue. I just think that the county has it in the comprehensive plan. You obviously did your homework before you wrote that comprehensive plan. And I don't think that you're going to see every field or every corner with solar panels based off the guidelines that Mr. Pope read earlier. There's several places in the county you can go see them now. I ride by them, and I'll be the first to tell you that they're not the most sightly thing in the world, but they are absolutely not the most unsightly thing that we see in Greensville County. There are many other things in this county we ride by and we look at that's worse than looking at solar panels. I don't believe solar is perfect. I believe that they have a long ways to go with it, but I also think if we don't let them put the solar panels up, they're not going to get that research and development in real time that they need. So That is my opinion, and I appreciate you listening to me on the solar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Arletha Kane.
Good evening to the Board of Supervisors. I'm Aletha Kane of 2726 Sussex Drive, Emporia, Virginia. First, I would like to commend this board for the fine job that they have done in representing Greensville County. Contrary to what others say, when I'm out in the community, I've heard many citizens quite proud of this board. It is not always easy when you have to make tough decisions, and it will not always be pleasing to others. This is why I like to say to the board to keep on keeping on, keep striving. Don't allow what others say about you to dictate who you are as a person, nor as board members. Some of the comments made to you are most unpleasant at times and sometimes unfair. Remarks even made dictating to the board how to look at the audience. Don't talk to each other. Take your mask off. We're still in a pandemic. Also, I feel like this board deserves much better respect because of the position that you hold, and not to mention being just a human being. I truly believe when each of you ran with the best interest to move this county forward, even if it meant changes that appear not so pleasing to others. So I will end with this scripture, and this scripture reads, "Be not be weary in well-doing," Galatians 6 and 9, and keep on keeping on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fred Maldonado.
Good evening, supervisors. My name is Fred Maldonado. My address is 1006 Doodlem Road, Jared, Virginia. It is always a pleasure to speak directly to you, and please know that I thank you in advance for this opportunity. As leaders of our community, I wanted to make sure that each of you know about an event that will take place in our community later this week. It is an event that I believe is of historic importance. I'm speaking, of course, about the grand opening of what will be the first ever Republican Party headquarters office right here in Emporia, Greensville. As chairman of your local Emporia Greensville Republican Committee, I would like to invite each member of the board to join us for this event. I believe your collective presence will highlight the board's support for a fair and honest election on November 2nd. The ceremony will get underway at 2 p.m. on this coming Thursday at the former Social Services Building, 1748 East Atlantic Street. Our guest of honor will be Mr. Glenn Youngkin, the Republican candidate for governor. The special guest speaker will be Mr. Otto Waxman, candidate for Virginia's 75th District House of Delegates. I hope that you, along with the general public, will join us, and be sure and bring a friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Alexis Jones.
Good evening. My name is Alexis Jones, 11300 Purdy Road, Jarrett, Virginia. I come tonight just to share a little bit of background on solar and energy and development in Southside. Many of you know I'm an environmentalist. I've been practicing as a consultant for 15 years serving Southside, Virginia. And I wanted to share my history. Many of you know your counterparts in Mecklenburg County, and they are a direct offset or representation of what solar and support of infrastructure such as Dominion Energy has done to their community. They have a very large client, I think many of you know, of Mr. Bill Gates and their community, and Dominion Energy has a superb relationship and presence in Mecklenburg County that has supported Wayne in much of his capital improvement projects. I think many of you know of I think it's more than a $23 million school that they're building, middle school and high school comprehensive project. And it's folks like Dominion Energy, Microsoft, that when they come into these areas, they are 100% vested into these communities. I assist clients like them in going through their environmental processes, through their Section 404 permitting, all their different due diligences. And when I say they cross every T and dot every I, they really do. I've worked with Dominion on the ACP, doing their testifying with their different booster stations across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And when I say an entity does a good job, they really do. Now, do I want solar on my farm? Probably not right now. It's not something of an interest in our family, but I do feel like if a person who pays property taxes just as equal as I do should have the opportunity to utilize their properties in their manner, because they're paying taxes as an individual and in their investment. So I just wanted to share my history. I've worked in Greensville County, Southampton, Sussex, Mecklenburg, Halifax, Brunswick, Dinwiddie. They're everywhere, and just like they stated, if they don't come here, they're gonna go somewhere else. And I just beg you to see how much they have done for communities, whether it's children's classrooms, to wetlands mitigation, to developing the resources that we need to be a sustainable community. And I've tried for a long time to get some of these folks at our mega site, but bringing entities like this and these resources for energy are what are gonna support clients that are gonna land in our mega site. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Clint Slate.
I just want to make a note that I want to speak on solar and citizens' comment as well. Clint Slate, 103 Beechtree Lane, Emporia. Here we are again talking about solar. I know I sat out here a few weeks back and listened to you all as the supervisors. I see some of your planning commission members out here tonight. I'm sure they're just as curious as what y'all are going to decide here as I am. But y'all had a joint conversation, little interaction, and I left here the other night assuming that the consensus of the planning commission and the board of supervisors was we had enough restrictions, we had enough language in place. Let's take every site on its merit. Let's make a decision. Let's don't try to make a blanket decision here tonight. I listened to Mr. Green and his associate get up here and speak. It's a shame in this world that a man as smart as Mr. Green and has got as much knowledge, as much to say, that you limit him to 3 minutes. I think he deserves a little bit more, because I'm sure that all of y'all sitting behind those desks up there are not as smart in his profession as he is, as well as he's not as smart in your profession as you are. And I've said it before, lean on these people. A lot of knowledge in this room. A lot of people take time to come up here. Lean on them, listen to them. And to sit here and think that a board might possibly, I hope I'm looking from the back to say that what you decided or what you discussed at the planning commission meeting is going to hold true tonight. But if you sit up here tonight and make a blanket decision that could set the fate of solar in our county, I as a landowner, I as a business person will be utterly, utterly disappointed, and I think you will have well. And I listened to the young lady speak earlier. I know you get a lot of negative press. I've given it to you, but I've given you some positive too when I thought you deserved it. Well, I'm saying here tonight, please don't put the fate of our county and the development of this county. Do not sit here tonight and run these good people away from here and they not come back. I don't think that we've got enough money. I don't think you've got enough money in your budget or in your surplus to turn your head on the revenues that could be here tonight. And if you do, please, please tell me, because as I told you last week, I'm a nervous man. I'm a nervous man because most of y'all sitting up here, you've got
One
your
minute.
monies vested in a portfolio, and if you get mad at who you've got it vested with, you pack it up, you carry it somewhere. My problem is, I can't take my land, I can't take these structures, I can't pick them up and move them out of Greensville County and Emporia. I'm stuck with it. I'm stuck with y'all. I'm here. I'm trying my best, hoping that somebody will listen and recognize the smarts of these people and don't let your inexperiences set the fate on the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Delafield.
Tom Delafield, 148 Cobble Ridge Drive, Pittsboro, North Carolina. Chairman Brown, members of the board, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Tom Delafield. I'm Director of Project Development for Renewable Energy Services, solar development company owned and operated by my family out of North Carolina. We're developing 2 projects in the county right now, and I come before you with some thoughts I'd like to share. I do not believe this draft ordinance to be in passable form, and I ask that you reject it for the following reasons. First, at a previous hearing on the ordinance, the Planning Commission meeting on April 13th, there's been some discussion of this already about the distance requirement, but it seems that it has not been revised, at least not in public, and it has not been subject to public discussion. That density requirement would result in a de facto ban on solar in the county. Recent legislation passed by the General Assembly of Virginia and subsequently approved by this board, such as the revenue sharing method of taxation, allows Greensville County to capture significant tax revenues from solar projects without any draw on county services. In fact, revenue sharing taxation method allows the county to tax solar farms like new, without concern for equipment depreciation, ensuring a predictable, levelized source of revenues that could be bonded out to pay for any number of things that the county desires. Secondly, the county already has a thorough and detailed ordinance which, in my opinion, strikes the balance an ordinance is meant to, allowing for development but keeping it within guardrails. Guardrails being a combination of the written ordinance, recommendations from the comprehensive plan, and discretion on the part of public boards. Be cognizant of the impacts of codifying every imaginable preference into the ordinance. Instead, allow yourselves and the Planning Commission to maintain discretion to impose conditions as needed to approve and deny projects, knowing and acknowledging that at times there can be multiple ways to solve a problem or achieve a goal. And thirdly, the ordinance as written unfairly reduces the property rights of landowners, farmers, and timber producers in your county. Solar, as shown by countless university, third-party, and government studies, is a safe, quiet, odorless, low-impact, and legal use.
1 minute.
If you are not impacting your neighbors, should you not be allowed to use your land as you see fit? The ordinance under consideration would come at the expense of landowners pursuing what they feel is best for their family. In closing, I ask that you reject this proposed ordinance and utilize the existing development framework that you have on the books, which emphasizes quality projects, county revenues, and board discretion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Benny Ligon.
Good evening. Benny Ligon, I reside at 3175 Pine Log Road. You know, you hear a lot of people stand up here and say that it's my land, I want to do what I want to with it. And I agree with that. But unfortunately, the reality of it is, when you make that comment, there's an end that goes on into that statement. And that is, you can do what you want with your own land, contingent of being in line with state and local laws. Now, that's where you guys come in. I've seen, and I'm in the middle of Hicksford District, where we have been having to deal with total uncontrolled industrial scale solar development. And the landscape in Hicksford District has changed dramatically. And we've still got one more project, only 600 feet from the pumpkin seed project, that we've got to have constructed. Now, if you want to ride somewhere, ride down there. The supporting structures are tremendous. There have been other structures constructed that weren't even discussed like a line that goes all the way from Diamond Grove Road all the way to Gaston Road. Nobody mentioned that. I'm sure that was something Dominion would have to do anyway. The problem, as I see it, is pretty simple. So far, every decision that's been made about solar has been discretionary. There is absolutely nothing in the comp plan or in the zoning ordinance that protects all landowners in Greensville County. And I would like to see you be willing to put some of the guidelines into
1 minute.
into the zoning ordinance simply because landowners need some protection. And right now, we don't have any. And, you know, you now have the opportunity to take control of solar development, something that the previous board didn't have, and up to tonight, you haven't had. And I would encourage you to strengthen Article 24-3 of the zoning ordinance the best you can to protect all the landowners in Greensville County. There are far more landowners that will never accept solar or want to develop that farm than there are those that will. We know this is a money issue, but you need to do the right thing and protect all the landowners in the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Skylar Zunk.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today. My name is Skylar Zunk, and I'm speaking on behalf of a group called Conservatives for Clean Energy, based in Richmond, Virginia, and I am the new state director for what we're calling the Land and Liberty Coalition, a coalition of landowners and stakeholders, many of which you've heard from this evening, who are in support of clean energy development across our Commonwealth. I think we have a lot of, we should be proud of Virginia's sun creating Virginia power and Greensville County producing its own power. As our friends from Dominion and other developers have said, this is important, and we want to be an open and inviting economy to big companies that want to come here because of a green energy portfolio, as well as developers who want to help everybody with their tax dollars and their bottom line. For Conservatives for Clean Energy, we start and end every conversation with property rights. People should have the freedom to do what they choose with their land. And I don't think that laws, your current comprehensive plan should be codified in ordinances which would prevent people from doing what they please on their land. Specifically, that 5-mile radius is going to put a ban on solar within 5 miles of any project. Neighbors are going to feel jealous and unhappy that somebody who got to a solar developer first is allowed to develop a project, but they won't be allowed to develop a project nearby within 5 miles ever. And the 1,000-acre limit is very concerning, especially the case that only 75% of that can be used with panels. You guys have a lot of different projects in the queue, and there's some questions being raised by landowners and developers. Are their projects going to be grandfathered in, or are they going to be subject to increased scrutiny if that ordinance is put in place? I urge you all to act on a case-by-case basis. Do not codify this language in law and tie your own hands. There are going to be projects that work well for the county, work well for landowners, and work well for neighbors that are within 5 miles or a certain number of miles from another project. So like I said, it's an honor to be here on behalf of Conservatives for Clean Energy and the Land and Liberty Coalition. I sent each of you a letter this afternoon. I'd be happy to share hard copies if you'd like me to do so after the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rob Probst.
Good evening. My name is Rob Probst, and I'm a solar project manager with Urban Grid, a Virginia-based solar developer. I thank you for this opportunity to comment on the proposed provisions tonight. Urban Grid, as I said, is based in Virginia. We're a solar developer with over 10 sites in various stages of development throughout the Commonwealth. We recognize the challenges of balancing new technologies, uses, and growth with the concerns of the citizens. And I'm grateful to be able to speak to you this evening to help solve some of these problems together. Since filing an interconnection application in July of 2018, we have been exploring and performing due diligence on a utility-scale solar project in a remote area in the northwest corner of your county. We refer to this project as Monarch Solar. In my comments tonight, I'd like to share some practical concerns and unintended consequences, as I see it, of the proposed amendments as drafted. Urban Grid supports policies that encourage utility-scale solar projects in remote agricultural and managed forest areas where there are few adjacent residences and good natural buffers. We believe the existing comprehensive plan promotes a policy of clustering solar projects to reduce the impacts to areas within the county near residences. We at Urban Grid utilize these siting principles to guide our selection of the site that we've set our sights on here in your county. The proposed amendments to require a 5-mile buffer between project, it's not only excessive, but it would make it nearly impossible to site a solar project in only but a few places in the county. Once you factor in the connectivity to transmission lines and remove urban and residential areas, it leaves very little area to site projects. Such a policy would only frustrate good siting practices and tie the hands of planners and yourselves
1 minute.
who need the flexibility to make good decisions. The proposed amendment to place a cap on the total acreage for projects would negatively impact the revenue the county is able to receive from a larger project and incentivize developers to pursue several smaller projects that utilize the land less efficiently and create a larger burden on the planning staff. This policy has the unintended consequence of underutilizing large contiguous tracts of land that are typically used for managed timber operations where the tax revenue to the county is less than if it were used for solar. The Planning Commission recommended not adopting these more restrictive policies, and Urban Grid respectfully asks you to reject these punitive standards. Please leave the guidelines in the comprehensive plan where they can serve as a guide and not a hard and fast requirement to evaluate projects. If you adopt these restrictive requirements, you would be tying your hands and diminish your flexibility to thoughtfully deliberate the merits of good projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dana Lewis.
Good afternoon. My name is Dana Atkins Lewis, and I call it Skippers because my people have lived here for so long, but I live at 219 Elm Road, Emporia, Virginia. I'm here tonight simply to say hello to each one of you, but also I'm asking and pleading with you, each one of you, if you would give the elderly people in Greensville County, the veterans and disabled people as myself, an opportunity to try to enjoy their country way of living. My family has lived down on the Thomas Plantation in Skippers for over 125 years. And at the present, we are having a very hard time hearing crickets at night or hear the birds singing in the morning. It is due to rental property that's next door to my elderly mother and I, and they blast music all during the day, half of the night. Sometimes the music can start at 8:30 in the morning, and it can go to 3:30 in the morning. I have called the Greensville County Police Department over 15 different times. I have pulled the police reports. I have talked to the Sheriff Tim Jarrett. He has been down to visit my mother and I. Nothing is being done about it. It is if these people who live at 187 Elm Road, Emporia, Virginia, is for some reason very special, that no matter what they do, how much they blast their music, no one seems to give any thought about it. As I said, I'm 52 years old. I have lived in Greensville County the majority of my life, and I have enjoyed the country way of living. And all the time in which I have lived there with the Vincents, the Hawkins, the Thomases, and the Atkins and Robinsons, we have never had this much chaos, blasting music, shooting, fireworks, which, by the way, is illegal in the Commonwealth of Virginia to have if it's not a sparkler. But all of these things are going on from this one rental property, from my understanding that is owned by Floyd Fields, who live at 5414 Stokes Lane, Richmond, Virginia.
1 minute.
And all the things that I have mentioned to Mrs. Astrop, I have talked to Mr. Gary Cyphers, I have talked to Tim Jarrett and so forth, it seems everyone is aloof. I am being told that there is no Greensville County noise ordinance. Well, I'm here tonight beseeching the board that it needs to be one on the book for Greensville County. True, everyone does have the right, if it doesn't cause harm and hurt to the citizens, and as you own your land, you do have some right to do what you want to do with it. But when your land and your blasting music jeopardize the lives of people who have had cardiac bypass surgery, 3, as myself, my elderly mother, who's in the beginning stages of Alzheimer's, and my deceased 21-year Navy veteran brother, Jeffrey Atkins, who had PTSD.
Time.
I'm asking you all to pull a noise ordinance, write one, have it put on the book to help the citizens who've lived here all of their lives.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may just remind the public, this is a public hearing on solar. There will be a citizen comments later for other matters. Thank you.
All right, we need a motion to return to regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second that we turn to regular session. All in favor of the roll call vote?
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conwell?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is action resulting from public hearing, which is attachment H, A, ZTA 1-21 solar facilities, and B, Greensville County Comprehensive Plan as it relates to solar facilities.
I don't know about my fellow board members, but with everything that has been said, I would like to go back and actually take the time to go through both ordinances again before I would vote, because I want to take in consideration what everyone has said here tonight. Can I have a motion to defer? Well, I move that we defer, excuse me.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and second that we defer. All in favor? Roll call vote.
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Abstain.
Mr. Conwell?
Aye.
Next, we have items with appointment, road matters. Mr. Tommy Catlett, resident engineer with VDOT, is present to report on road matters, which is attachment I in your agenda packet.
Evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Tommy Catlett with the VDOT Franklin Residency. Go over some maintenance updates. So past 2 weeks, we've cut grass on Bass Road, Milestone Road, and Dahlia Road. We addressed some pavement issues on Brickyard Road. We regraded Cedar Lane, Newsom Lane, Steel Bridge Road, Rainy Road, and Mitchell's Mill. We swept some loose gravel off of Coral Road, Barley Road, Macedonia Road, Beef Road, and James River Junction, since they were all surface treated. We did replace 2 driveway pipes on Little Low Ground, as well as do about 500 feet of ditching. Horton Road, there was a request for a speed limit sign, so that sign has been ordered and will be installed once it is received by our office. We also pulled shoulders on Fountain Creek Road, Pine Log Road, and we've done some shoulder repair on Fish Road, as well as Fountain Creek Road, and removed a tree on Fish Road. Our mowing contractor has started litter pickup this past weekend on secondary roads 610, 619, and today they were on Route 611. They also started on primary routes today, picking up litter on Route 58. So in the next few days, you'll see the mowing tractors come in and they'll start cutting grass. Our paving contractor has completed paving on Route 301 down in Skippers, He's almost completed out in front of the school, right out here on 301. He's got a little bit of striping and cleanup to do, but they've mainly been on 58, west of 95, and they do have one spot on the east side of 95 that they will do. And just a reminder for everyone, we do have a call center, which is 1-800-4-ROAD, which is 367-7623. And just encourage people, if they have any road issues, call that number. It gets dispatched straight to my Emporia area headquarters. And I'll take any questions or concerns.
Go on.
Go ahead.
Okay, I do notice in the report that you all gave us, and I've gotten several calls, and I have reached out to Mr. Catlett a couple of times. I've only seen on this report where ditches were cleaned out on Pine Log Road. Do we have an estimation of when you all will be cleaning ditches in any other parts of the county?
I don't have a schedule, but I know if it's been called in, it's on a schedule, pending the availability of our equipment.
Okay, there's one more area as well on, and this one is not in my district, but on 301, right up here where the bridge is, right by the country club. Well, I think it's Country Club Road. When it rains, that water pools down and it floods those houses that sit right there as soon as you turn on that road. I've gotten some concern calls about those as well.
Okay, we can take a look at that.
Thank you.
I have a complaint on, first of all, y'all did a very good job on Beef Road, cleaning the ditches, which, you know, needed been done for the last 10 years. But I had a complaint. It was an asphalt road, and it's like, y'all went over like gravel road. It was complaining about the tar. But Fish Road it's really bad. That to me should have been gravel or something. Can y'all look into that as far as least gravel in Fish Road?
Okay, yes, sir, we can look at that. And just to clarify, that's something called surface treatment. It's an old tar and rock method.
Oh, that's what okay.
Yes, sir.
But it was, I mean, I didn't never get any complaints from it. You know, it was smooth riding road.
Yes, sir.
Now it's rocks and tar. Just saying.
It's a maintenance method that's used to seal the road. So when it had a lot of reflective cracking, that's what we do to seal it and extend the lifespan of that road.
Would you go back over it with asphalt?
No, sir.
Okay.
My thing is Horton Road, we supposed to be doing a speed study. I talked with Jerry. And Blanks Lane, I think the last time I talked with Derek, he told me that the equipment had broke down. And we was cutting the ditches on Blank Lane, but he said the equipment had broke down. That was, we went out in May, so I don't know whether the equipment is up and running again or not.
Yes, sir. I'll check on that. We did have our grade all down for quite an extended period of time, so we are a little backed up, but we're trying to flush out the backlog. And Horton Road was the one I said we had ordered the speed limit sign, just waiting for it to come in.
Okay, the Cortland, the one I was, that was Cortland, but also Horton Road too. Because that's right off the Brickyard Road. If you come down across the track right there, we had asked for a study. I called Jerry on that.
Yeah, Horton Road, we're waiting for the sign to come in and it'll be installed. Cortland Road, I will check on the status of that for you.
Okay.
We just need to be sure we continue the side trimming and cutting. And a lot of the roads, secondary roads, still need side trimming. Especially with some of the big farm equipment and everything, people traveling, vehicles getting hit by bushes.
And when you talk about, she's mentioned Country Club Road, I've had a bunch of calls on that also, and I don't think the grass has ever been cut by us since we finished the bridge about 3-4 years ago. I'm constantly getting the flood part and also for the grass been cut. And I know everybody complain about garbage because that's one of the biggest problems we have is garbage in the county, yeah.
You have a start date on, that's Independent Church Road, as far as where Aluka stop?
Yes, sir. That is up in central office now to go to advertisement.
Okay.
In construction, once it's advertised and awarded, construction, I think we allocated a year.
Okay.
And I think there was also, I think Independent and also Rotterdam Road. Those are the two roads that I think we need to get completed. Yeah, well, when you was out, it wasn't, okay. Okay. Okay, so, okay, good, because I know when Jerry was there the last time, it wasn't, okay.
It's not complete, just that one phase.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I know.
Still not complete.
Okay, 'cause I know when Jerry was there the last time, he said, you know.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is citizens' comments. When we were going through the sign-up sheet earlier, we had two gentlemen who commented about wanting to speak in public comment as well. Mr. Mike Ray.
Before we begin, excuse me, Mr. Ray, let me just say the protocol remains in place. If anyone needs me to read the whole thing, I will, but if not, please keep the protocol in mind. Thank you.
I'm sorry, say that again, I did not hear you.
Proceed under the same protocol as you formerly proceeded under.
Yes, sir, absolutely. My name is Mike Gray, 583 Scotland Drive. Thanks for giving me a chance to speak to you tonight, and I will say this before I get started. I wish the board could have been vocal about solar and some of the other issues if you have been the last 5 minutes about roads, rock, and gravel, but I'm appreciative of all of those things as well. So thanks for allowing me to speak to you, and I will tell you I'm deeply concerned about how the county is spending the taxpayers' monies. The federal government is running debt at a pace that will take generations to pay it back. Just because big government is running up frivolous debt, I don't want to see Greensville County run up the same debt. I'm asking this board to make decisions that are in the best interest of the citizens and remain good stewards of the hard-earned money. I want every employee in the county to earn appropriate wages for what they do. I'd like every department to have the resources they need to accomplish the job that we ask them to do. But what I don't want is for ambitious leaders to create positions and need more money and just keep spending it without good reason. And I know you removed an agenda off your item tonight, but I'm still going to say it. Recently, the board hired Mr. Wood as Director of Human Resources. This position did not previously exist, and I'm asking, was it really needed? Question mark. Has it been explained to the taxpayer why the position was needed? The board recently relieved the county administrator and hired a new county administrator with substantially higher pay. Was this necessary? Was it needed? Has it ever been explained to the taxpayer why it was necessary? Now this board wants to hire another new position, a human resources administrative assistant. So you want to hire Mr. Wood, who's holding a title that previously didn't exist up to 60 days ago, but now he needs an assistant. I would like the board to explain to the taxpayer how we've even determined that he needs an assistant when I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's not settled at his job yet. I personally don't have an issue with the creating of a Director of Human Resources position. I think that's probably something that was needed, but I'll always have a problem in the circumstances on how Mr. Wood was hired.
1 minute.
And I absolutely have a problem with creating another position to assist Mr. Wood in performing a job that didn't exist 60 days ago. I think the board owes an explanation to the taxpayers on how you spend our money. Too often this board continues to operate as if you have no accountability to the citizens. I've made mention of this many times before and even spoke on how the laws allow you to do this. I'm going to continue to demand more of this board as an elected official. I'm going to continue to try to hold you accountable as best I can. And I'm pleading with you to stop violating the open meeting laws of Virginia, stop operating in the shadows, become more transparent, stop ignoring the citizens that have allowed you to sit where you sit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Clint Slate.
Clint Slate, 103 Beechtree Lane. First of all, thank you, Belinda. Thank you for being vocal. Thank you for taking the time and getting these others to sit back and consider. I'd rather you debate it, talk about it for 90 days if you have to, before you make a bad decision, or any decision that nobody's clear of. I sat back here and I've talked about before where public comment comes into play through y'all's meeting, and I guess tonight it played out just as good as any other time. I listened to the gentleman speak about, and y'all asked all the questions about the issues with the highways around, and if I was understanding right, you were talking about the water issue when you turn on Country Club Road on the left-hand side. Well, I can't believe I'm gonna defend the state, but I'm gonna defend the state now. I own property out there, built a house out there, sold a house out there. I own nothing out there now. But I will say, the problem out there by the road, it doesn't lie in the hands of the state. It lies in the hands of many, many days ago, the man who started developing that land from day one. No site plans, no active working plans. Mr. Pope sitting over there grinning at me right now, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Poor planning, poor grading has put a problem back on the county that really wasn't ever the county's before. I'm pretty sure before those houses were there was no issue there. So that's one instance that I can say that each one of those, and I know some of them have asked for dirt, you know, for me before, wanting to do things out there that I obviously know is going to create a problem in the road. So I think that probably the first thing to do, great to talk to the man from the state, but probably need to visit those first couple residents out there and let them address the issues that they created on their property. And I think the problem with the state will be resolved. I'm under 2 minutes, Honor.
One.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is old business. The first item is item A, the Industrial Development Authority is an election District 1 appointment. It was deferred from a previous meeting.
Yeah, so we're going to defer again tonight. Can I move that we defer for another meeting?
Second.
Been moved and second that we defer. All in favor with a roll call vote?
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conwell?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is procurement of equipment and/or services for collection of solid waste. This item was deferred from the meeting of July the 6th, 2021.
I'm going to say after reviewing all the numbers that we got, I think we would be best suited to purchase our own truck because we would spend far less money if we were to just obtain our own vehicle. So I move that we purchase the equipment for the solid waste department.
Second.
Before we go into a vote on it, I just want to say, I think the numbers that I presented several meetings ago were the actual numbers that we got. And it still, in my mind, is best to contract this service out. The quote for the new truck is not accurate. It doesn't include federal excise tax, which is, FET is 12%. So another $20,000 got to be added to the cost of this truck that nobody's calculated in. And we keep adding costs to it. It's not going to solve our problem for overflow at the sites. It's not going to remove the risk and the liability from the county. So I just want to state that fact before it goes to a vote.
Okay, since you said, I'll give you this so y'all can understand it. The numbers that we received to lease was $248,500. To buy the rollback, now if you want to do that, I don't know. The rollback was $169,000 and some dollars. If we do the math, we came out with a number, including, I don't know why, in a CIP, we put in the salary for the worker themselves that would, for the truck driver. That should have never been put in CIP, but it was. Even including that, if you purchase the truck in year 2021, you don't purchase the truck again. But at $248,000, if you just do the math over about 4 or 5 years, and I've been hearing all this screaming about the county's dollars, being respectful of the county's dollars, we would spend somewhere in the neighborhood of about $400,000 to $500,000 because you're not going to buy the truck but once. But if you lease this thing out each and every year, you're gonna pay that $248,000 plus, because I don't believe that the lease price is gonna stay the same from one year to the next year. And we'll be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood, if you include your 20,000 going in FY 22-23, and also if you include the salary and the maintenance, which came out to be about $10,000 some dollars, you're looking at less than $100,000 in FY 22-23 going forward.
Well, to start with, we're not looking at leasing anything. Nobody's discussed leasing. It was contract and the Service Act. And when you figure total cost on an annual basis, that salary has got to be included in it because that truck's not going to drive itself. So we're looking at total cost of operating that truck in a year's time with maintenance expenses, everything else, was at almost $150,000. That's going to be an annual cost, going to cost you every year, year after year. It's going to increase by 5% each year at least.
Okay, the numbers that I received, and I'm not sure you got the same. The numbers I received it was $121,000. Those are the numbers I received. And I also reminded, I said, you got to go back. What we put in was $29,000 for FY 2021. You cannot include money in FY 2021 because it's already been spent. So the dollars we're talking about spending is the dollars you will spend in FY 21-22. It was $121,000. If you take the $29,000 out of that, including the truck, and then you go to FY 22-23, there is nowhere in the world that we're gonna end up spending anywhere, and plus if we purchase a truck, we have no maintenance on that truck for the next 5 years. The only thing we do is change the oil and pay for the tires and pay for the insurance that goes on that truck.
And the fuel
So-
that goes in it.
And the fuel that goes in it. So,
The numbers we were presented were for a year.
right.
For FY 20, which was from July of 20 to this year, end of June. The number we had included the $121,000 that you just said, but it only gave us 6 months of contract hauling, which if you calculate it the way it was for that 6 months was another $30,000 added to it. It equates to $150,000 a year. But that's okay. You want to buy the truck, we're going to continue having overflow. We're going to continue contracting service out to get it caught up because we're not going to be able to fix the problem buying a truck. Buying a truck's not the answer to the problem.
Well, I'll repeat this again. The only thing I can go by, you had asked for numbers. The only thing I can go by is the numbers that was presented to me, that I received. And those numbers I received, and I added them all up, over the next 4 or 5 years, we would spend anywhere from $400,000 to $500,000 of the taxpayers' money. Based on the numbers I received, I can't go by, the only thing I can do about the numbers I received.
I got the same numbers you did.
Right.
And the cost of that truck is going to pay for contracting that service for 2 years. And I know because we were presented a pickup and a boom truck as well. Next year, budget time, they're coming back with another request for a boom truck and a pickup truck. So that will pay for another 2 years. So that would contract the service for 4 years. But that's my spiel on it.
What we had agreed is this board about rollback. I don't know about the other stuff. So
Like I said, what we budgeted for the rollback is not accurate because it clearly states on the quote that Mr. Parker submitted to us, it didn't include federal excise tax, which I checked into it is 12%. We're $20,000 short on budgeting for the rollback truck.
And if you even include that $20,000, you're still going to be $300,000 to $400,000 over the next 4 to 5 years if you go out and do what you're doing. I mean, like I say, I can only go by the numbers I received, and Gary sent me the numbers. So
Wasn't it in the budget?
Huh?
The 169,000 was in the budget, right?
Right, that's what I got. That was the $169,000.
The $169,000 in the budget, $169,900 is what the quote was. And it did not include FET on it, which is an additional $20,000.
Even if you do that and you add the $20,000 to it, you're not going to buy the truck but 1 year. If you can contract it out, you got to do it every year. And I sat down and I put the numbers together. If we do this over the next 5 years, you're looking at anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000 extra dollars by contracting it versus buying the truck. I can only go by the numbers I received, and that's what I received.
Okay. It's been moved and second that we purchase the truck for collection of solid waste. All in favor with a roll call vote?
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conwell?
No. And I want to say also, the citizens that have been commenting about spending taxpayers' money, need to take a long, hard look at this.
And if any citizen want those numbers, I'll be more than happy to email them to you, because I can only go by the numbers I received. Anybody that want those numbers that we was voting on tonight, I'll be more than happy to send them to you. You want a copy? I'll make sure you get a copy. Make sure I get your information. I'll be glad to send you a copy of it. Okay. Yes.
The next item on the agenda is other matters. It is Mid-Atlantic Advanced Manufacturing Center Regional Industrial Facility Authority and at-large appointment for a term of 4 years.
I'd like to move that we appoint Dr. Charlotte Woolridge, our new county administrator, to that position.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor with a roll call vote?
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conwell?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is relocation of the Board of Supervisors meeting. Staff requests your direction if you want to move the board meetings back to the County Administrative Government Building, or if you would like to leave them here at the Golden Leaf Commons.
I would like to stay here for now.
Yeah, I think,
because
yeah.
I'd like to make the motion that we continue to have them here based on increased cases of COVID coming in the near future.
Been moved and second.
Can I make a statement before we do that?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Now, the statement I want to make is this is, and I don't want to see us go into any meeting where we have to have a mandatory somebody wearing a mask. I know there's been a big fuss and everything else. So based on the data as it comes in, I know we got a uprising in COVID cases. So my position that I like to see us as we go through this, that if we had to go back to where we were prior to July of last year, where we go back to the virtual meetings and not anybody coming, that way I don't want to see us make the decision where somebody has to wear a mask, because I don't want, because when you tell people they got to put a mask on, that's the biggest uproar I've seen all over this country, when you tell somebody they do have to wear a mask. And I do not want to be in a position to tell anybody that you have to wear a mask.
It's been moved and second that we continue the meeting here at the Golden Leaf Common. All in favor with a roll call vote?
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conwell?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is miscellaneous matters. Item A, staff work programs, and item B, staff meeting minutes. Any questions?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we adjourn. All in favor with a roll call vote?
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conwell?
Aye.
I'd like to have a motion that we go back in the regular section of water and sewer.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conwell?
Aye.
Certification of closed meeting, resolution WS 2160. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conwell?
Aye.
The approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conwell?
Aye.
Approval of the consent agenda. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conwell?
Aye.
No public hearing. Item with appointment none. Old business none. New business. WS 2161.
Attachment F in your agenda packet is regarding Dominion Energy's water rate increase. Greensville County Water and Sewer Authority supplies water and sewer service to Dominion Energy's generation facility. Pursuant to an agreement dated April 20th, 2015, and an amendment number 1 dated April 30th, 2015, GCWSA is contractually obligated to purchase 50% of the water and 100% of the sewer service supplied to Dominion from the city of Emporia each fiscal year. Emporia has had numerous rate increases since GCWSA entered into the 2015 agreement with Dominion. The cost of purchasing these services from Emporia and GCWSA's current rates for providing these services to Dominion were not sustainable. GCWSA requested Dominion's approve a water and sewer rate increase to allow GCWSA to develop sustainable rates for their facilities. Dominion approved a 13.5% water and sewer rate increase. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Greensville County Water and Sewer Authority hereby authorizes the execution of Addendum Number 2 to the GCWSA Dominion Agreement, increasing Dominion's water and sewer rates 13.5% effective May 1st, 2021. GCWSA's chairman or acting director are authorized to execute Addendum Number 2 contingent upon approval of the GCWSA's attorney's review and approval. Staff respectfully requests that you adopt Resolution 21-61 as presented.
I move that we approve WS-21-61. Approve this. Can I get up?
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown? Mr.
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conway?
Aye.
You got that? Are you done?
Well, the last thing on your agenda,
Relocation, you have, relocation of Greensville County Water and Sewer Authority
That's the
meeting.
same thing.
regarding the last thing on your agenda was regarding the location of the meetings.
I move that we continue having the meetings here at Golden Leaf.
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conway?
Aye.
I move we adjourn.
So moved.
Roll call.
Ms. Astrop?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Conway?
Aye.